Let's bring in Alan May. I'm sure he was smiling at this. You remember the commercial, Alan, right? The old 2 minutes for looking so good. Maurice Richard. You quite remember those commercials, right?
I can barely remember it, but I remember it. And it's a lot of cheesy commercials back in the day. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hey, you're from Edmonton. I don't want to blow your cover, but you identify as an Oilers fan, even though you got the Capitals gear on right now. I want to know your take on the Oilers' 14-game win streak, please.
I'm loving it, and it just goes to show that a coaching change was needed because, if I had some Swiss cheese here, that's the defense they were playing at the start of the year. This coach, Chris Knoblauch, has come in, and he's got them playing so incredibly well without the puck. They're playing a more patient game. They're not, prone to the same big mistakes. And I don't identify as an Oilers fan. I am one, and I don't hide it from anyone. And I make sure that it's out there. I'm very proud of it. It was a lot of tough years, though, and a lot of busted draft picks, but it's great to see these two incredible players bring their team along and to see that arena. The number one money-making team in the National Hockey League, and they've got good reason to be happy right now. They're packing the building. The players are playing a great brand of hockey that I believe translates to better playoff hockey. And at the start of the year, it wouldn't matter if Patrick Roy and Martin Brodeur were your two goaltenders, you wouldn't have won games the way they were playing.
You're plugged in more than anybody. I'd love to know what you're hearing or seeing about Paul Coffey's influence on this team since, because he came along with Knoblauch.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things about Paul is he's got an incredible amount of self-confidence that he transfers to you. He's one of the most engaging guys to speak with. Like when you're talking to Paul, he's a Hall of Famer. I idolized this guy growing up. I played in some alumni games with him, and I was just so happy after those games that he wanted to hang out and talk to me. And he makes you feel great about yourself. And he's given these kids a road plan on how to play the game. He's taking the complicated part of the game away, and he's making it an easier structure to play. Really, there were some of the defensemen I wanted to get rid of all 6 guys that were playing every night. And now I look at all these guys, and they are legit. And Paul's had a great, people say, well, he's never coached before. There is a lot of learning that's gone on in youth hockey nowadays, like 18U and below. You have to be more of a teacher, more of a communicator. And I think the number one thing with Koff is he's an all-world communicator. He looks you in the eye. He doesn't break you down. He builds you up. John Tortorella, I played for a long time ago. We had we were enemies, and then we were on the same team. And I look and I hear of all these things about him, but he's another guy. You want to go in his office because he's not going to strip you down. He's going to build you up. You're going to walk out 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And I think Paul Coffey's been doing that with the Edmonton Oilers.
Please, just because it's entertaining, and I know you came here to talk about the Capitals, and we'll get to that, but talk about your first game as an Oiler, because it's awesome. And I'm sure you don't mind retelling it.
Well, some of it, I don't want everyone to yell at me, but the big thing when I got called up, and I felt really bad because I think it was Glenn Cochran who just passed away in the last week or two. I'd seen him lose a fight the night before against my buddy Lyndon Byers in a Bruins Edmonton game. And I had played, I'd been sick for a little while. I got back one game, and Slats was at his first and maybe only ever minor league hockey game that he had ever watched as general manager, president, head coach of the Oilers. And he asked me if I wanted to come home for Christmas. And I had a really good game. Best player, had a 2-minute and 5-second tilt with Rob Ray at center ice. It was absolutely awesome. And that was the first shift of the game. And then he asked me if I wanted to go home for Christmas. I was like, who wouldn't want to go home for Christmas? Well, I fly back the next morning. I get home pretty early enough to get a morning skate in and everything. And instead of staying at the hotel, I went to stay at my mom and dad's house, and their phone rang and rang and rang and rang. And back then, everyone used to smoke. The house was like a cloud. So I took it upon myself, Wayne Gretzky style, to go to the arena at 2 p.m. And it was pretty cool. I had a very eventful training camp. So when I got out there, I had played that game, and I couldn't believe it. I had all my enemies became frenemies that game. And then I had the people that were my best friends were there. My grandparents were there. It was pretty cool. My dad had seats in the second row. My then girlfriend and my sister were sitting behind the goal about 7 rows up by the Zamboni, where I actually sat growing up. Well, before the game, just before the game at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, this one's always ingrained in me, is my chief, my uncle, who was a chief of the Hobima band, comes in the dressing room. He's got a headdress on. He's got the buckskin jacket on. And now my secret's out that I'm a native. And, because I didn't like taking, what the guys were throwing all the time back then. You always try to minimize being the brunt of, the attacks, which, they weren't really attacks, but you don't want to give them. So during that game, I ended up scoring a goal. And in the morning, when I did get to the arena, I found a penny. And I found this penny, or actually Slats found it. He said, Al, tape that to your skate. You'll score tonight. So sure enough, I score. It ends up being the game winner. I couldn't believe I scored. I looked in the net. I looked up at the red light. I looked at my sister and my girlfriend. They're freaking out. I went behind the net again, and I was getting a little choked up because I looked down the ice at the other end on the second row because my dad was so tiny. He's crying, and my mom is just sitting there with her arms crossed, not trying to show any emotion. Well, I'm skating to the bench, and I'm getting a little choked up seeing how happy and proud my dad is. And all of a sudden, I hear from the bench some little war cries, and I was like, oh my God, they got me. And I'm starting to choke up, and Keith Acton comes over and don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you. And he's jabbing me with this stick. So anyways, at the last shift of the game, I am out on the ice inside the D zone. We're only up by a goal, I believe. And it's to the right of Grant Fear. And Slats, as he goes out, as I go out, says, don't fight. So I assume because Churla, Basil McRae, Dana Merzen, their biggest guys are all on the ice. That meant fight. Slats was a psychologist, so I thought I just skated out to Dana Merzen. That was my guy, left defense. I skated out, cross-checked him. We end up having a big-time fight, and I get kicked out of the game. It's at the last. It was basically 30, 40 seconds left in the game, whatever it was. I go in the dressing room, and I'm expecting to get pats in the back. The guys are going crazy. Messier's the greatest guy to be a teammate with, and it's like a party. And the last game before the couple-day Christmas break, and Slats comes in and he goes, turns the music off, which normally doesn't happen. The coaches just let you be after a win. And he goes, I thought I told you not to fight. I go, I thought you were using reverse psychology on me. And he goes, if I was using reverse psychology on you, you would know. Give me my penny back. And I gave him the old, whatever's in there. And there's no way he was getting that damn penny, but it ended up being an incredible night. The restaurant that we hung out growing up, all the cooks were there when we got back after Mess's party that night at my parents' house. It couldn't have been a better first goal in the National Hockey League, especially for my parents to be there. So many friends, but the whole day was so super surreal and just a blast. And I'll have that the rest of my life. I know our team, every time we go into Edmonton or play the Oilers, they show the clip of it. And you can see how shocked I was when I scored the goal. So it's just an absolutely incredible memory.
That's why I asked folks. Al and I have done a lot of banquets together, and everybody loves that story. And hey, speaking of First Nations hockey players, I don't need to ask this. You must have shared your descent with Ethan Bear. And how's our warrior doing there with the Caps?
Well, Ethan is, he came in here. Everyone had been skating. He's coming off a shoulder surgery, and I thought he's played fine, and he's still just hitting his stride. One of the things with Ethan right now is he moves the puck very nice. He doesn't overhandle. He likes to shoot the puck, which I appreciate because the D here have been overhandling the puck, but he's still got to get his legs under him. The other night I talked to him, I guess a week ago Thursday, before the St. Louis game, and we're talking, I go, how awesome is it to play here in the States? He goes, oh, it's amazing. No one knows who I am. We can walk around. We're not criticized for everything we do. When go to the grocery store, go to a restaurant. No one knows who he is. No one knows who most of the players are. And it's a hockey town that pretty much sells out every game. So he's enjoying the part where he's not getting blown up on social media. He's not getting blown up in the media for every play. And, conversely, I listen to my buddy Bob Stauffer's podcast or radio show every day. And every pass, every goal is life or death. And it's so hypercritical. We've got guys here that haven't scored in a dozen games that no one knows. And they're not harassing them. They're not getting beat up online. And if they are, it's just one person. So he's loving that part. I think he's going to get better and better as the season goes on. We have 8 NHL defensemen here right now. So they're going to flip-flop really the bottom 6 guys, not the top 2 as Carlson and Faravari. But I expect Ethan, as time goes on, as he really gets his legs under him, starts getting game legs, game shape, he'll be ready to really start taking off. He's still a young, very good hockey player.
Thank you for the answer. Thank you for the analysis. And as always, we talked about things you would have never guessed we were going to talk about today. Al, I appreciate it. Good luck. We'll do it again soon.
See ya. Take care, Rod.
All right. Washington Capitals TV analyst Alan May. WHL, SJHL, I think AJHL, and for sure NHL alum.